I do a lot of dictation to prep my reviews and whatnot. This one's called Doing a Review. Hey, welcome to Shelf Centered. Really, thank you for coming. This is before we jump into this review of Dune review, which is a review I'm doing. If you are new here, please like and subscribe. If you're not new here, please like and don't unsubscribe. We'll jump right into this. So, I don't know. I don't know how far back to go on this, and I've debated it, but really what it comes down to is I even like the David Lynch Dune movie, okay? It was on all the time on cable TV growing up. I would watch it. I was into every weird thing you could imagine. Did anyone watch Alien Nation, I think was one that I watched? Anything on the Sci-Fi Channel, I was down for. Call me, count me in. It's just stuff like that, and I think that's what literally led a lot to the, what I read now. I watched Buck Rogers. I watched, old school Battlestar Galactica. Anyway, loved all that stuff. Anyway, so just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm excited. I get where the issues that people had with the original Dune movie, and they're not wrong, pretty much all of them. I will tell you, I do have some issues with this new movie, and I will get to those eventually. And I'm going at this. I think this is just going to be. I'll attempt to avoid spoilers, but if they come, I'll give a quick warning, and it's probably going to be filled with spoilers and non-spoilers alike. So you've been warned. And I will get into. I do have some just kind of interesting choices, I thought, but on the whole, it's not even a question. I loved this movie. I mean, especially knowing Denis Villeneuve was coming into this movie with his just amazing track record. There was expectations were already high. I loved the book, and so expectations were higher. And I have to say, walking out, I thought it not only met all those insane expectations, but it blew it out of the water. So that's really what I'm coming from. I thought this was nailed, and I literally cannot wait for the next movie. And that's why I I had stated before, it was kind of before this, I watched the movie, I was like, look, you know what, I'm just going to be honest with myself. I'm not going to have time to actually read the book beforehand. That is typically my rule with media. I like to at least wait about a year in between reading the book and watching the movie, however that goes. And whether it's, reading the book, and typically that's the thing, is you'll read the book first, then watch the movie. I feel like if you read the book right before the movie, all you do is become a critic of everything that the movie's missing. As opposed to if you take your time and again, if you're prepared enough, which is hard to do, and it's also if you can avoid the excitement, which that's where I started going, I'm going to read it anyway, I don't care. But I just feel like you're going to appreciate both mediums so much better if it's more of a little rusty in your memory, and you're more getting reminded of all the things that you loved, as opposed to noticing all the things that are missing. And so anyway, so I did end up following that rule as far as the media, but then it's only half of a movie of the book, and we don't even get another movie until 2023 is the scheduled date, but I'm just not going to hold my breath right now. Hopefully, I would imagine that there's a lot of things in play that's going to hopefully push that forward, as with how successful this first movie did and has been doing and is continuing to do. So anyway, so I like I said, I get to the issues. But the first things I wanted to talk about, though, were the good things. The good things, the actors. The actors, I just don't think you could have gotten better actors for this. They were so good. I mean, from Oscar Isaac, which I knew I would love. I have my issues with the Star Wars movies, but Poe is not one of them. And just he's so good, and he's excellent as Duke Leto Atreides, and he's spot on. He nails it so well, and just with, I don't know, all the things that Atreides brings to it. I remember at one point, turning to my wife while we were watching and just going, see, look what a good dad he is. It was like, because he cares so much when he gives Paul that kind of speech, and he's like, look, I want you to be my successor, but I also want you to be you. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I love him so much. So from him to, Gurney Halleck, you get that almost opening line, Gurney smiling, he's like, I am smiling. And it's just great. It's like, it's the perfect Gurney Halleck. Duncan Idaho, Jason Momoa did it well. He was actually one I love him. He's great in the stuff that he's in, but it's still like, as much as I loved Aquaman, and I think he did a great job in it, it's like, it's kind of a little campy. You have to kind of admit that a little bit here. And I didn't know how much he could kind of pull off a more, serious role. And clearly I haven't seen him in a lot of the stuff. I know he's in a bunch of serious roles. So, and even Aquaman is technically, I guess maybe I don't treat it that way. Editing Bryce here. Just real quick, wanted to insert this. I also enjoyed multiple other performances. One, Rebecca Ferguson, and I always liked her since the Mission Impossible movies, but especially this one, I thought she really showed some range here that I really hadn't seen before. I've seen The Greatest Showman a million times with my kids, and she was great in that. But this one is really definitely a new side to her, at least for me. And thought she just nailed it. The pain that she goes through as Paul faces the Gom Jabbar and all that. And then there wasn't a whole lot from Zendaya, and mostly like looking and so not much to say there yet, other than a couple lines at the very end. But I think she'll be good. She seems good. Again, also Greatest Showman. She was great in that. Back to our regularly scheduled program. But I thought really one of the things is I just didn't have much experience with Timothée Chalamet, and I don't know, and maybe it's just my bias from the old movie, the old unpopular movie that I don't know, he just didn't fit for me. But almost immediately, not only did he fit Paul, but he was, probably my favorite in the whole movie. And so he nailed it. I was so happy, and I am literally a diehard fan now. I will be watching everything. And then what's funny is I've actually talked with friends after, and they're like, of course, Timothée Chalamet is like the best thing going into this. The ships, the ships, the size of them. There's one great conversation between, in the books, between Leto and Paul, and and Paul's just kind of like, so we go on this kind of the Space Guild transport ship to get to Arrakis or Dune, and the dad's like, yeah, we'll be in one tiny little corner of it in our huge frigate, and they won't let us get off of it. And the scale, kind of like, the frigate's already described as this huge ship, and this huge ship is going to be on a bigger ship and in just one tiny little compartment of the insanely huge ship. And I thought I thought it was pulled off so well. And you didn't even have to have that conversation, of course, because we got to see it. We got to see these little tiny little ships break off and then come back, and they're like this huge ship when you actually see the people next to it. I just thought, I know we've seen these things in Star Wars and whatnot, but I don't know, I just thought the scale of them, the differentness of them was really good. And that kind of brings me to my point of, one of the things that I just get really excited with this is, with this movie, is it's so weird, and that's a good thing. That's one of the things that, in reading the book the first time especially, where you get this feeling of, it does feel alien, it does feel weird, it does feel, and if you think about it, of course it would be. I mean, you wouldn't just be thinking, well, it's just us with like laser guns and stuff, right? That's the future. Or light up swords, right? No, it's this weird place. It's going to be strange. It's going to have different things that you can't even imagine, that are going to be just so strange and foreign to you as a person here in our time, and that's going to be normal for people in 500 years, right? And I just think that it gets that feeling, right? That it's going to be so different and foreign that it will be weird to you, and maybe even uncomfortable. I mean, just I don't know, just the Bene Gesserit walking in, the Harkonnens. Oh gosh, that's like they're just nuts. But and again, they nailed the floating belt from Baron Harkonnen. Oh gosh, I just thought the shots themselves were breathtaking. They're amazing. I mean, we're talking just beautiful. And then again, that's, I think you come in going, all right, we're gonna get that. It's Villeneuve, and so going in you're gonna get breathtaking shots. This did not disappoint. No disappointment here. Breathtaking, and even, I mean, a desert can be beautiful, absolutely, but I don't know what it was, and maybe I'm crazy, so tell me how crazy I am in the comments below, but I just thought even just his way of dealing with just the sand flowing, or the storm, or just different ways of it's just a desert, right? You think sand, right? It's desert, but he just nailed the sense that it's this kind of beauty of this place, but also, I don't know, your first kind of glimpses, you kind of see this kind of barren, kind of capital city, right? And you kind of you get this good view of the whole thing, and the whole time I'm going, wouldn't it have more? And then I'm going, no, it wouldn't. It's getting beat up constantly by this world. It is going to be bare minimum, just what literally is surviving. There's going to be nothing pretty about it, and of course, except for like the what is it, the pine tree, not the pine trees, the trees, the whatever they are. One of the shots that I loved so much was, you have minor spoilers here. Jessica and Paul, it kind of looks up on Jessica up the dune, and then you just see the two moons in the background, and it's just, oh my gosh, so many good shots. I mean, that's just one tiny thing that stands out to me. And again, every ship is just amazing. Every time you see a ship, that's a shot I'm talking about. And more, the ship coming up from the water in Caladan. I mean, just stuff like that. It's so crazy. And again, one of the things that I people next to me in the theater, because it was my friends on one side, my wife on the other, they must have been like, oh my gosh, dude, chill out. But when Jessica and Paul are like running across the sandworms chasing them, it's dark, and they had just crashed, and sorry, another spoiler here, sorry, but just minor, and it just kind of like picks up, because this is actually in the trailer anyway, but the worm picks up, and you just see it just kind of hover there for a second. Again, the scale is there, just amazing, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all those Chris knives now. But just, oh man, just insane. It's just so crazy to see that, especially in the theater. Watching in the theater, I think, is mandatory for this movie, and I hear IMAX is even better, but we don't have an IMAX anywhere close to us here. But you just feeling the whole theater reverberate with the sounds of like either the sandworms or whatever it is, the ornithopters. Oh my gosh, the ornithopters are so cool. But just feeling that while you're there and watching this on the big screen is, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And then, I mean, just every shot of the sandworms, really. I mean, you've got the one where the sandworm, we're getting kind of a tour of Arrakis, and then we get to see the spice harvester, and then there's the sandworm coming, and then you kind of see it again, it looks so great how they've done this. And then that just amazing shot that you even see again in the trailers. So I'm not spoiling anything, and it's actually taken the whole harvester with it, and then you see, Gurney had grabbed Paul, and they go up in the ornithopter. So you see this great shot of Gurney holding on to Paul as the worm has come up, and oh my gosh, it's so breathtaking. It's so amazing. I was on the edge of my seat. And that's the thing is, with this movie, it literally was 2.5 hours that went by like that. Because I had heard some things, there was some exposition, that's part of the book, so I kind of assumed that, but it was nonstop action, from the moment, thrilling action from the very beginning till the very end. Someone even clearly didn't see the part one at the beginning, or wasn't told properly by their really good friend who knew everything about this going in. So you're welcome, all my friends who got their lectures from me. Sorry, but it ends, at the very end there, and then someone was just like, "What?" But again, I thought that sentiment was so great because I felt the same way. I felt I could go another 2.5 hours. I'm just getting started here. This is great. So anyway, with all that excitement, I do have to say there's just some things I wanted to address. I thought it was fair enough to address. This video is getting long, but here we are. So couple just interesting things that I wanted to mention here. Just a couple, and they're really just minor things, to be honest, for the most part. One of the things that these are just kind of some of the issues I had that they were clearly not game changers, because I seriously love this movie. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. That's without question. One of the things I just thought was a little awkward in the beginning, when Gurney Halleck comes in, it's a scene early on in the book, and he even gives right away the line, don't stand with your back to the door. And again, that shows right away, like the Atreides, not only is he noble and he's in Caladan already, where the Atreides have their power, you still have to watch your back even there. And so imagine if you're going into a more enemy territory. So that's kind of what it's even setting up already. So I thought that was great. But they get to fighting, they turn on their shields, and the fans obviously know that only the slow knife penetrates only the slow knife penetrates the shield. We know that. It's got to be slowly through the shield to do any damage. For some reason, that's the weakness, but it is what it is. Better than no shield at all. But I just felt like it was a little awkward how Gurney they kind of start fighting, and Gurney just kind of is like, only the slow knife penetrates the shield. And it was like, I think you might know that by now. That was clearly just for us. And I get it. Again, the way that the exposition was done was actually just very brilliant. And I felt like my friends who mostly had not had anything to do with the book, and my wife, they just... here's the beauty of it too, is they still loved the movie, or maybe it was just my excitement that bled through them. I don't know. Well, the jury's out on that. They say, at least to my face, that they loved it, so we'll go with it. And they were able to get it for the most part. We explained some things afterwards, but that just really felt like, okay, that's clearly was for the audience. But you still could have been like, have, I don't know, something happen, or like Paul hit him or something, and he's like, only the slow knife penetrates, and Paul could be like, I know, something like that. I'm not a movie maker, but it just felt a little awkward in the placement of it. As breathtaking as the movie was, I felt like there were a hefty amount of slow-mo parts, and I just felt like a lot of times they went on a little too long. There were a little too many of them, maybe. Just didn't need some of these just slow-mo. Anyway, that may be just a personal preference, and maybe I'm wrong, and that would have made the movie look worse, because again, it was amazing how it was, and with these nitpicks, I'm still rating this very highly. Um, One of the things that I think that, and it's some criticism that I agree with, that I've seen, because I thought the same thing, was there's no that dinner scene, right? And that's where uh, the Atreides kind of are, they actually get to Arrakis, they get unpacked and everything. I just felt like the movie seemed a little rushed. I know for a 2.5 hour movie, but it seemed a little rushed in going from the Atreides getting to Arrakis, and then almost immediately the Harkonnens are coming in to like, and I get it. I mean, really, Dune is really about Paul being with the Fremen. Like, I will be the first to admit that. That's really what it comes down to. But I just felt like that dinner scene at least could have done the job of kind of like setting that kind of mood, where, because the dinner scene is really important. It's where the people of Arrakis that are there, the nobles or the traders, are kind of just trying to get close to people and kind of state, hey, here's what we're about. And it's important because that's where we get Liet Kynes to kind of, oh, hey, maybe these guys are better than the Harkonnens, and kind of changing his and her in the movie, but his in the book, kind of mentality about them when, he'd already been approached by the Harkonnens. You kind of just don't know where he stood. But I still think, like, some things have to be cut, and I get it. This is still a movie about, it's Paul and the Fremen, and that's really the focus. And I thought, again, they got that scene with Jessica and the shutout. What's her name? Gosh. Anyway, the Fremen kind of servant who has a crysknife on her, and she spots it and would have killed her had she not spotted it. And anyway, and just based I can't even criticize this movie, because every time I go into a criticism, then I go, and then it does this. I thought it did just such a good job of even just explaining how this isn't your prophecy and the foretold one. It was, the prophecy was laid down by the Bene Gesserit, the Missionara Protectiva, and so they've like gotten these places prepared for their Bene Gesserit. They want to make sure that they can have ways of keeping their people safe, or just doing whatever they want to do, keeping their power. And this is how they've done it, is through things like, creating a prophecy. Thought that one of the things that was missing, again, that some things have to go, and I thought this was a fine one of all the things to go, was Dr. Yue, and not really explaining his role, his betrayal, because that's, something that very, very early in the book, that he's planning on this betrayal. And it's not even described that one of the things that makes this, betrayal even worse is that he literally is conditioned to not be able to betray. He should not be able to betray anyone. And that's his conditioning, kind of, again, all these, we have the Bene Gesserit, the Mentats, and then, the medical staff. But Yue is literally, he cannot be coerced, or he just couldn't betray. And that's the thing, is like, and also the brilliance of these evil Harkonnens, that they're able to do that, and why they're such a good arch nemesis here in this, a good bad guy for the film and the books. But I just felt like there is a lot when this betrayal is coming, and you see these scenes with Yue and Paul together, and you're like, Paul, just if you only knew. And then like Yue's heart like breaking over, he loves Paul so much, and and Paul is just so kind to him, and he's just like, how can I even do this? And just even questioning himself a little bit. But in the movie, he just goes right to, he suddenly is the bad guy. And then he's like, here, I'm going to implant this tooth in you, Leto. And it's not really explained how much he hates the Harkonnens for what they've done to him too. And so you kind of were like, yeah, I get, and you eventually get it, obviously, like, and you kind of have to know this is coming. The Harkonnens are, that's the spoiler here, that when he does actually get there and he asks for his, reward, can you free my wife? And they're like, oh, we freed her and we'll free you too. And boom, kill him. So you kind of get it, why he would hate them and what they've done, but you really understand his hatred for the Harkonnens and why he would just try to get somebody close to be able to enact his final revenge on them and their whole family, and especially the Baron. But anyway, that's missing, but I get it. I get that there's only so much time you have, and I felt like it did well with what it had. I mean, the scene with the assassin needle thing, gosh, I'm blanking on what it is. I always blank when I do this. But where Paul just catches it and saves the Shadow. And one of the things too is I thought the ending was kind of a funky place for the movie, but I mean, this is literally a nitpick of nitpicks, because the next movie will just solve the problem. Like having the next movie, boom, you can put it in. But I just felt like, probably a more appropriate place would have been right before they were found by the Fremen. It was kind of a good kind of stopping point, and it was still, 2 hours in. But to actually meet up with the Fremen, kind of actually get going with the Fremen, and have that fight scene there in the end, and then take off from there, is kind of like wait, we're just starting a new story now. Like we're neck deep into it, and we just stopped the movie. So it was just, anyway, funky, but again, it's solved by having the next movie, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal. The biggest problem in the movie, in all these movies, is they don't show you that sand gets literally everywhere. There's no way those still suits are even protecting from sand being in the worst possible places and chafing everywhere. I just went to the Great Sand Dunes, and believe me, I know. You sled down there, and then you have sand everywhere, okay? So I just, you can tell my excitement, I think, I hope. I love this movie. You have to check it out. Check it out in theaters. I don't care if you're a sci-fi fan or not. There's enough there that I think you'll just be amazed by it anyway. But the story's so good. It's so well acted. There's just so many breathtaking shots. Again, the story itself is what I love so much about this. And that you do the best, I think, thing that this does is that Villeneuve did was to really, really make you hate the Harkonnens. Like, they utterly it's what they did is just unforgivable, and you just see what that does to Paul and what it does to you, because you are writhing, you are so frustratedly mad with this. It's crazy. So highly recommended. Like I said, 10 out of 10. Easy 10 out of 10. I cannot wait. I want to watch it again and again. And that's a big factor, actually, in my ratings for movies especially, and books. How much do I want to reread it? How much can I reread it or rewatch it? And this is one I feel like you can keep rewatching. I don't care if there's an ending. I want to watch it again and again. So, hey, thanks for sticking around. This is one of my longest videos probably ever. I had a lot to say. And I didn't even explain what's even going on. I assumed you already know. So, if you're here, I appreciate your time. Thank you for stopping by. Please like and subscribe. And thank you. We'll see you. Bye.